Okay, the Wigan Warriors have re-signed John Bateman for the 2021 season. He's leaving Australia and the Canberra Raiders. Now, we already knew he was leaving Canberra at the end of the season. A lot of NRL clubs were linked with him, including the Canterbury Bulldogs at the top of that list. They were very keen to get his signature. Now, obviously, they suddenly called on the idea, and I think it is something to do with his agent, Isaac Moses. Now, whether John Bateman decides to keep Isaac Moses as his agent long term will be interesting to see. The NRL are looking at changing the rules or exploring ways to change the rules on how agents operate. What's happened with the John Bateman situation is clearly Isaac Moses has told the player to agitate to be paid for more money. Now, it doesn't help that John Bateman hasn't played this season, is recovering from a shoulder surgery, or technically two shoulder surgeries since the grand final, and hasn't played a part in Canberra's play this season. It is also interesting that Wigan are the club that have signed him from next season. Considering the Super League hasn't restarted, there are concerns about the finances in rugby league in the Northern Hemisphere, in the Super League structure and downwards. And there are concerns about the future of the DW Stadium, who is going to own it, because Wigan Athletic, the football club that also play there, have entered administration, and there are issues with the stadium, which they share with the Wigan Warriors. Can Wigan justify his signature and the expenditure of compensating Canberra, even though he's off contract at the end of the year, and the big signing on bonus and the money they're going to be paying him? We know that the Super League and the RFL in general has received a loan, and that is for the whole rugby league structure, of £16 million. We haven't been given a concrete date of a restart date. We know that when the league does restart, the Super League and the Championship and League One and the amateur leagues, fans will not be in attendance most likely, or in limited numbers if they are allowed to attend, very restricted capacity. So that's going to hurt gate receipts, of which rugby league is heavily reliant on. And there are question marks about the TV deal signed with Sky. Now, Sky haven't asked for a rebate from the RFL and Super League, which is interesting because they've demanded money back from football but not from rugby league. But the TV deal itself is not worth huge sums of cash. And where rugby league is played in the UK is mostly in the poorer economic areas of the country in the north. They only have the Broncos and the Scholars in the southeast. There's a few teams around Coventry in the Midlands, but for the most part it's the M62 corridor. So if you're familiar with geography, that's Yorkshire and Lancashire and bits of Cheshire. That is a very small area in which to play a professional sport, and this is something else that we could discuss in another video. On the NRL side, I'm not surprised teams have been wary of signing him and called off. The Isaac Moses link with as his agent, as I discussed in the previous video, that's probably put some teams off. The negotiating style of Isaac Moses, he has a track record. He's not the only agent, but he's a very well-known agent in Australian and New Zealand Kiwi sport. The issues about how agents negotiate for deals for players and with clubs, or they might have more than one player on the books at the same club, and the NRL are looking into the role of agents within rugby league and the game. And I wouldn't be surprised if they don't involve the Super League and then the rugby league clubs in Europe as well into the role of agents, because Isaac Moses at the moment has a client in John Bateman in the Super League, and that'll be really interesting to see if we can get full transparency of the role of agents and how much they get paid in fee, how much involvement they have in the contract negotiations, and how hands-on they are, and these destabilising contract negotiations, because clearly Canberra's fall since the lockdown ended. Yeah, they won the first couple of games, but in recent weeks, apart from beating the Dragons recently, they've had a bit of a wobble. John Bateman hasn't played a part in any matches because of his shoulder injury and the recovery from the surgeries. But clearly, this is all playing out quite big in the Australian press. It's making big headlines down under. That's going to have an impact on the playing squad. And Canberra are a team known not to cop any crap from players who are, or agents for that matter, who are agitating these kind of contract negotiations. They have been known to sack players for less when it comes to these highly charged and sometimes toxic contract negotiations where agents are manipulating the situation to get a bigger fee. That's basically what it boils down to. There's a lack of transparency there. This is making headline news, and the players will be reading the newspapers and the websites and listening to news reports on the TV and the internet. They will be following what the press are writing about and discussing. They'll be following social media. That is going to be a mild distraction. However, they've won their most recent game against the Dragons. The second half was a bit wobbly, but the first half was very convincing from the Raiders. It was a good bounce-back win, considering that golden point loss to Parramatta the week before. But Now that we have some clarity, let's see when he rejoins the team, how many minutes he gets, and whether he gets an early release clause, because he could be released before the end of the season and go to Wigan when the Super League restarts. We just don't know. He could actually get early release, and they could speed up the deal. So it'll be interesting to see when he is fit to play, and when the Super League returns, if he stays in Canberra for the duration of the season, or if he leaves early. That'd be another interesting thing. But for now, thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts below, and I'll have some more videos for you very, very soon.